I've got some questions for Mr. Hall, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Chuck Hall, 19 Lakeview Drive, Trophy Club resident, 15 years. Currently serve as the president of TCR. Been a member of the organization for 10 years. Thanks for giving us the opportunity once again to come before you. Yes, Mr. Lamont.
What is the legal name of your 501c3 association?
I'm not sure.
Wow. Anybody here know?
We would have to have our treasurer here.
That's something that was probably set up years
Hold
ago.
on.
And they
Hold on, Madam
may
Mayor.
have changed.
It was set up a couple of years ago.
Just out of curiosity, did you have a board of directors meeting and we handed out the Form 990 to review and approve before it was sent to the IRS?
You know what? I may not be the person to specifically speak.
You would have gotten one.
I'm sorry?
I mean, you would have gotten one.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Okay. Just for the record, Madam Mayor, there is no Trophy Club Roanoke Youth Baseball Association. That organization does not exist. What does exist is the TCR Youth Baseball Association. Madam Mayor, you have been signing a contract for the last 2 years for a non-existent corporation. Mr. Hall also said he didn't want to give us his financials. They are available. Unfortunately, you have to dig because we had the wrong name. You can get them online. You can get them from the IRS. In fact, it's against the law, Mr. Hall, for you not to give them to us. It's upwards of a $10,000 fine. So just bear that in mind. So when Mr. Adams
I'll keep that in mind.
asked
Thank
you for the financials, we expect to get them.
Yeah.
Okay?
And that is part of the contract change that we had
Yes.
in there.
But they've been reluctant to give them to us. They want to show them to us.
Let me paraphrase and clarify what I think you're trying to say, Mr. Lamont. We've agreed to provide financials. You've just said that they're publicly provided. Our only request was that we do those in such a way whereby we have input, consideration, and feedback for the interpretation of those financials, because the last thing that I want is for someone who's uninformed, okay, to take that information and potentially use it the wrong way. We are fully prepared to disclose whatever it is that we're asked for. But I'm concerned with simply providing that via an email to someone who may not be able to interpret them properly. And I think, as I've been here the third time for the last 3 weeks, we do have consensus that makes sense. So,
Well, the person that you may be concerned with can just go on the internet, type in, and get those forms.
and
So-
that very well may be the case.
Well, that is the case. Speaking of that, so I do have your financials. And if you don't mind my asking, in year ending 2012, you had $24,000 combined in field rentals and tournaments. Would you
Mayor
know?
White, may I ask, is this a discussion about our financials at this point? Are we talking about contract extension and the parameters that we set forth that said, we talked about background checks, we talked about soft toss, we talked about financials, and whatever else it was?
And the contract revision that we have here states that you would meet with staff and any of the council that desired it to discuss the financials. That's what we...
With preparation time.
Correct.
I'm not prepared to go over
Correct.
financials at the moment.
That's right.
And I hope you understand that.
All right.
Right.
Let me ask you this.
So let me, before you go on, Mr. Lamont, am I correct in stating that this is the point of this conversation and this particular topic?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the point? Are we not negotiating this contract? Are we not? I'm under the impression we're negotiating a spring contract.
Correct.
Correct.
And the negotiation involves, do we look at background checks for board members? We've always done background checks for coaches, okay? Number two, do we talk about disclosure of financials, which I've just touched upon? Number three was soft toss. What was the other one, Adam?
You had
Dollar fee, which we've already agreed to and we've already implemented. So I think those are the 4 or 5 points that we've said, let's look at, let's agree to, and based on on those agreements. Let's move forward with the contract extension. And as Mayor White has already described, there's a subcommittee involved with looking at
The fall contract.
significantly more due diligence so that the next go-around, we're more informed as an organization to define what that means not only for baseball, but for football and for soccer. So to me, that's the topic of discussion right
Right,
now,
this-
versus getting into a discussion about what's the 20 grand doing here or
Right,
or
this
whatever
is
the
not
ca-
the venue for discussing the specifics of the finances.
Precisely,
We have not set that up. It's not part of our agenda. It's not
precisely.
discussion.
Well, Madam Mayor, with all due respect, he was negotiating for an organization that doesn't exist. So let's make that clear. One of the questions I asked you was about staffing of concessions, and you said they're strictly volunteers, correct?
For the most part. There are times when we get kids out there to staff, and we'll pay them a nominal fee to help support, similar to opening day, which many of you have been involved with, where we have bounce houses out there, and we'll get teenagers to help out with that. But the vast majority does make up of volunteers.
See, the
Just so
prob-
you, just so you know, what we're going to do, is since you're paying people, we'll need a waiver of subrogation
Okay.
attached to your insurance policy.
Okay. Here again,
By the way,
Mr.
Adam, do we have a copy of their insurance policy?
Yeah, we had it last year. I don't have one this year. I don't have
Did you
one.
notice the name on it by any chance?
No, I don't.
See, here's the problem I have. If we're going to give free tournaments, then how can you not discuss what they've paid in the past? How can you, I mean, they've paid $24,000 in 2012. The Town of Trophy Club got $6,000. So what I'm trying to understand is where the additional money went for tournament fees, $15,000, and field rentals, $9,000. Yeah, I mean, you're asking me to give 3 free tournaments to, it looks like that they're paying somebody tournament fees. So who are they paying? They're not paying us. That's, I mean, it's hard to pass this when you're seeing this. That's the point I'm trying to make.
In
Adam, can
addition,
you clarify for us any of
Madam
this?
Mayor, if you don't mind. At our last council meeting, the majority of the council gave the staff direction to prepare an amendment to the existing ordinance with those 4 or 5 items to be addressed and kick the analysis of these contracts to the park board for consideration and analysis, and to bring back to the council, not only for baseball, but all the youth associations that use our facilities, for a more comprehensive look. That was the direction that the majority of this council gave. It wasn't a unanimous decision. Madam Mayor, the discussion that we're having tonight has nothing to do with that amendment to the contract. We've provided you an amendment based on those 4 or 5 items that needed to be addressed, and all of these things are absolutely important to take into consideration and allow the park board to do their work and come back to this council with another approach about their contracts with the Baseball Association, football, and soccer.
But you're saying that you're going to do a subcommittee for the fall league, the fall session. This is not the fall session, this is the spring session. So
That's
you're
right.
asking me to vote on something that
The
I
council
don't have
asked,
clarification on.
what part do you not understand? I mean, there was a
They
discussion
paid
by the
us-
council.
They paid us $6,000, they spent $24,000. What did they spend it on?
I don't think that was part, I understand where you're going.
But you're
I don't-
asking me
wait,
to
wait.
give.
One at a
you're
time,
asking
one at a
me to
time,
give
please. Don't
tournaments
interrupt.
free.
Okay.
Free tournaments.
We have an existing contract. We're only,
That's not
what-
what we're
no, we
voting
do
on.
not.
what
Excuse me.
tonight's vote is proposed is those changes to the existing contract, the $10 a person, the background checks, the providing us. I understand where you are, but that's not what the vote is about tonight. And we're not going to renegotiate, we're just amending what we already have in place.
I'm not asking you to renegotiate. I'm asking for a simple explanation of where that
That's
money
not
went.
on the agenda.
Okay, then in the contract, why did you take out, notwithstanding the foregoing, these tournaments shall not occur during the regular recreation baseball season? That was removed. If we're not discussing that part of the contract, why was it taken out?
The only reason that was taken out is to allow, I mean, that's something I worked out with Tony as far as the park superintendent, as far as maintenance of the fields. That was just to bring in the revenue for, the association usually has the tournaments before and after the season. What I basically was doing was allowing the revenue to come in from somebody like a Triple Crown. That's the only reason I did
So
it.
do you get my point? We're discussing the whole contract, obviously, not just those parts.
Put that back in. And let's just vote. I want to vote on the 4 or 5 things that we're supposed to be voting on. I'm not interested in renegotiating the contract. That will come up in the next contract. But our vote and what's on the agenda is to amend for those things that we, the council, said we wanted.
I'm willing to work on this, but I think, Madam Mayor, what's on our agenda is the Trophy Club Roanoke Youth Baseball Association. They don't exist.
And it's,
So I'm willing to say, all right, let's change all this. But the contract and this agenda item is not related to their corporation at this present time. They are TCR Youth Baseball Association.
so it's a matter of
This
somebody
out now.
abbreviated.
With all due
Not
respect-
abbreviated, you wanna
With
say-
all due respect,
TCR and
Mr.
Trophy Club
Lamont,
Roanoke.
you say that, we don't know that, and until they have an opportunity, that doesn't prove anything to me.
Oh, okay.
Folks, what we are is a volunteer organization that promotes youth sports within our community, and we do it very, very well. Now, there may be details that we don't have here right now at this moment, but we'll certainly address those, okay? So to Mr. Mayor's point, I think we need to look at the 4 or 5 things. Let's get past this, and then we need to get into the weeds, so be it. We've got a subcommittee being set up. That'll be part of that process. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve our youth, our kids, and our town, and I think we do a fine job of it.
Right, and we have a fiduciary responsibility.
I understand that.
Okay?
I
To
understand
make
that.
sure that this contract is right. And right now, it's not right because we need to change it to the
We're
correct
talking about
corporation.
extending the existing contract, which we've
Patricia?
basically already done.
Patricia, would you please,
I'm looking right now to find a date. This isn't a yearly contract, excuse me, according to its terms, so bear with me just a minute.